Hello everybody, how are we doing today? A little bit slower in chat today, but that's all good. Today's gonna be a slower day anyways, regardless. Thank you for the follow earlier, and Critter. Just want to say your Discord code for Discord voice chat functionality saved my life, dog. Working on my AI's memory right now. Glad I'm here to catch a stream. Glad to hear. Yeah. Glad to hear that somebody's finding use out of my code and making use of it inside of their projects as well. That's kind of like the purpose of why I want to share my code as well. Hello S16. Haku says, I won't be here to stream, so behave. Yup. Guys, let's behave a little, yeah? Let's not get rowdy with all these pipes. I mean, I don't think any of you really have that many points left after a whole couple weeks of pipes, but hey. Good night, y'all. Limit, don't dox yourself. I'll try not to dox myself. But yeah. Today's going to be a little bit more of a chill stream. Let's pull up the desktop so I can actually talk about what I want to do for today. Alright. So, pretty much what we're doing today, we're just going to get straight into it. last stream, we were implementing some of the MCP stuff, and we were able to implement the MCP server into the AISense code, which is nice and all. But there's one extra thing that I wanted to do before I could really call the MCP implementation done. And that is having a dedicated LLM for the MCP tool calling. And so the reason why this is a bit of a problem is because how operations currently operate is that each operation, they have a specific slot inside of the operation manager, something like speech to text, text to text, text to speech. Each one of them has a single slot for an operation. And we kind of got around it by having this extra dictionary here in which we can load another text-to-text operation without overriding the one that we use for personality. So this one can be fine-tuned for specifically making MCP calls and something that is smarter, so it is more capable of doing MCP calls and pulling out the correct ones, whereas the personality can just be a dumb LLM that does anything really. The only problem with this is that based off of how we do configuration right now, this is the one that I use for JAISen. You'll see here that we have a list of operations, but we don't have the configuration. Instead, the configuration is down here, and it's more or less global. So every single Cobalt instance, every every single OpenAI instance, they're all going to have the same configuration. And that's a problem because it all uses the same models. They're all configured to use the same models. So if I wanted to spawn one text-to-text model with GPT-4o mini for personality, then I'm stuck also using GPT-4o mini for the LLM tool calls. But perhaps I have my own fine-tuned model in ChatGPT that I want to use, then I can't use GPT-4o mini for my LLM tool calling, which is a bit of a problem because if I fine-tune a model too hard, then it might not be well suited for doing LLM calls and stuff like that. So what we tried to do at the end of last stream was kind of separate out the configuration so that each operation that we create has their own configuration. So we move the configuration to a per thing basis. Timer, I'm not actually coding at the moment. I am just explaining what I want to do. The configuration has been moved from a global instance from outside, and they're moved into a per instance basis. And so for text to text, for example, we have 4o for our model over here, but we can also have for our MCP, it's not here, but let me just copy it over from here. We can also specify another OpenAI instance, and this will use a different model, let's say GPT-4o mini in this case. So we have GPT-4o mini being used for MCP, as well as GPT-4o, not 4o mini, being used for personality, for example. Great idea, doing something similar in my code right now. Basically little agents that use different models for specific tasks, right? Yeah, basically little agents that use different models for specific tasks. I wouldn't even call them agents because I don't think that's the right word for it, but just like allowing it so each different creation of an operation, each operation that I create can use a different configuration and they aren't tied to each other. What y'all think of the name Limit Can't Explain? I'm trying my best. I know my explanations are pretty dog shit at times and they're overcomplicated at times, but I really don't know how to explain it any better. So yeah, what we're going to be doing today is continuing with this refactor. I kind of gave how I wanted to do handling of configuration a little bit better, and basically I'm thinking that this central configuration object, I really shouldn't be keeping all of these configuration attributes within the config object here. I think really it makes more sense that the configuration lives in the actual classes that they're being used in, such as pitch would have its like pitch amount within here, specified within here and managed within here. Processes would have its own, prompter would have its own, and MCP would have its own, I believe. MCP, maybe, we'll see. But yeah, each one of these are going to have their own configurations. They're still going to be managed centrally by this configuration object here, but this configuration object isn't going to be specifying these fields anymore. It's more or less just going to be used for interacting with the configuration files, loading, saving, stuff like that. So yeah, let's get started with that then. I haven't really worked on this at all off stream. I've been working on some of the other fixes and stuff, but let's start off by, I guess, moving the configuration to each of these different operations, which could take a little bit of time actually. Okay, let's start off with PyTTS. PyTTS, here we go. We call it synthetic TTSG still, which I kind of don't want to call it that. Yeah, okay. I kind of don't want to call it that. But I'll come back to that in a moment. I'll probably could just call this like PyTTS, TTS voice, whatever. But before that, we actually need to change the specification of a base operation, since all of them are gonna need stuff for validation of the configuration, as well as even setting up their configuration in the first place. So let's put down async define configure. Configure, yes. Why did it do that? Config dictionary. I actually can't type right now. Okay, so this config dictionary, where the hell did it go? I am so lost. What the hell just happened? Also, something I failed to understand. If I'm using OpenAI in your project, do I need NVIDIA? No, you don't. OpenAI is just for their OpenAI API by default. The only time you would need NVIDIA, it would be independent of, you wouldn't need it for the project specifically. The only time you would need NVIDIA is if you're running it locally using a different service. Something like LM Studio or something, but that would already be handled by LM Studio themselves, so you don't need to worry about whether or not you have NVIDIA for this project. Validate operation. Also something, and can I change the EAE without breaking it, the base URL? You can change it to whatever API that follows the OpenAI standard. So something like LM Studio, Olama, all of those use kind of OpenAI's kind of structure for an API. And so they all kind of are usable by the OpenAI operation / library. How old are you? I'm guessing 23. You're pretty spot on, actually. He's 5. Guys, I'm actually not even 1 year old, you know? I'm as old as my channel. This channel, I only exist because of this channel. He did go to college. I am still in college. I hit puberty or right out the womb. All right, so configure. This configure, this configure class function. This configure function for this class, this needs to be implemented for every single one of these operations. And we'll make use of that inside the JAISIN application layer when we first load up JAISIN to actually configure these operations, as well as during runtime through an API endpoint to configure each one of the operations specifically. I want to use this project, but I prefer to use OpenAI's LLM. I want to use Anthropic. Well, to be honest, I don't know what Anthropic's API even looks like. All right, I need to start the timer, I forgot. I don't know what Anthropic's API looks like, but it's probably very different from OpenAI's, right? If not, then it should still be usable with the OpenAI library, but I don't know, that's something you would have to check out. Paste. And configure to be implemented. I might go to use, you might use Olama and run it locally to make the AI answers faster, but I need a second PC probably. Running it locally doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get answers back faster. It does mean you have more control and you don't have to fight with network latency and stuff. But the thing is, third-party services, they have massive models, but they distribute it over a lot of different compute units. So they have like thousands and thousands probably of different computers or just devices that they spread their models across. So that way their models are able to run as fast as they can, right? When we run it locally, we aren't doing it necessarily because we believe it will be faster. Some of the times it isn't actually even faster than running it through a third-party service, but we just don't have to fight with the fact that it's being ran by another service, right? We can control whether if it's up or not. We have it dedicated for us, and we don't have to fight with their kind of censorship and all of that stuff. Because I feel like I don't know what the speed normally is for inference. It might be just 15 tokens per second on average for consumer devices with consumer models or open source models that we would run at least. Yeah, you run it locally because it's free. Well, you still have to pay the price of electricity, but yeah, technically it is free. All right, let's use ITTS first. We need to first configure you. So the configuration for this will be these. So we have synth TTSG. I don't want to call it synth TTSG. I want to call it ITTS TTS. This will take in a voice name, our gender, and our working file. Our working file will just be... This is by default, but that's fine. 12 dots. We don't want to override it if it's not... Yeah, if we don't want to set it to null or something if it's not specified in configuration D, so we only change it if it is already specified in configuration D. So if the name is inside of configuration D, then we set the actual configuration of this operation to use that value. So for voice name, I guess we'll say voice name. And actually, because we're setting it per operation now, we don't need these special specifiers like synth TTSG, since it's already implied that it's going to be for TTSG. For pi TTS TTSG, right? Okay, that should be good. Wait, if Limit started this project not to just start learning about AI, lonely much? What do you mean by not to just start learning about AI? How is it lonely if I'm doing this to learn about AI? I started this project because I thought it would be pretty... Okay, I feel like I talk about this a lot. The reason why I started Project JAISIN originally, it started like a whole year before I even started the YouTube channel or anything, but the reason why I started working on Project JAISIN was because I would be at home a lot and I wouldn't be able to talk on Discord, right? I would always have to like type out what I wanted to use, or I would be using something like Balabuka with Windows TTS to talk through, use that to talk inside of voice calls inside of Discord. Basically just TTS inside of Discord. But I thought to myself, you know, I do this so much, wouldn't it be cool if I had my own voice for Windows SAPI or Windows CTS or something. And so I spent like a good year trying to figure that out to no avail. And at that point I was like, you know what? I don't think it would be much harder for me to develop an AI VTuber versus whatever the fuck I'm doing right now. I feel like whatever the fuck I'm doing right now is like leagues harder than that. And so I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'll kind of like incorporate the two. Make my own custom TTS. Not even like AI TTS, but synthesized TTS. And try to make a AI VTuber that kind of like is a clone of me of some sorts. And so that's kind of how Project JAISIN started. And after looking at all the resources for how to make an AI VTuber and all of that stuff, I was like, the resources are so spread out, the community for developers feels so spread out, that I was like, you know what, might as well just like make a community for this. Might as well share my work, share the things that I learned along the way. Maybe it'll be useful to some people. And that's the reason why I started the channel, really. Not because I wanted a friend. I'm not really that lonely of a person. You don't see a lot of my friends on stream because, well, I don't really want to make it a thing among them. I don't really want to make it a thing amongst them, so I'd keep it like low-key. I'm pretty sure there's only like 3 people that know me personally that actually know that I do this because I've told them about my plans for doing this. They've reviewed some of my videos and yeah, they fill in some of the roles within the community. But outside of that, pretty much the vast majority of my friends, they don't even know that I do this. Whenever I tell them that I'm busy, I just tell them that I'm busy doing coursework or something. A bit of a liar, but like, it's like my secret identity, kinda. all of this stuff are the defaults for what we want for ITDS here. So let's put this into the initializer here. That should be fine. Or actually, we can put it inside of start. I think it'll make more sense inside of start. Or, I don't know where to put this. Fuck it. I'm just gonna put it initialize. It doesn't really matter. It's up to the implementer of the operation where you want to put it. Portable path. This comes from a utility. Utils.helpers. Import portable path. No. Dot path. Here we go. That gives us portable path. We also need OS, import OS, and we need this working directory. Working directory comes from config. I think config will have a bunch of defaults specified within it. That should be fine, right? Config dot working directory and just that. That's fine. That gives us the defaults. Have this. Set this to config dictionary working file. Yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of this for the rest of the stream, really. Nothing really too interesting. Voice name, we'll just put voice. We'll also need to change some of the startup code to actually make use of these new configuration fields. That should be okay. This is going to be such a tedious process because there's so many operations that we support, which is kind of like the annoying thing of having to support so many implementations. I kind of just want to, at some point, prune a lot of these operations, clean it up, and just stick with one good solution that is like locally runnable and stuff. Which we could technically do right now, but for now we'll just keep it like this. I think this should be good for PyTTS. I don't think there's anywhere else we need to change for this. Genuine question, did you hate having to write everything down in GitHub more than the actual code? I would, not gonna lie. If you mean the documentation, it is pretty annoying at times to have to write the documentation, especially when you know that not many people are actually gonna read it, and there's gonna be a lot of people that just like they'll ask the questions anyways, even though it is written out pretty clearly within the documentation. But I also get like, I hate reading. I assume a lot of other people hate reading too, and they can't like sit down and actually read, but be bothered to read through 1,000 lines of documentation. So it's kind of fair. And at that point, I kind of do feel like the documentation is a little bit like redundant. Your documentation helped me out a lot. Yeah. It's not like it's completely useless. People who do put in the effort to read it, it is a massive benefit to them. And they will learn a lot more than they would get out of a like setup video or me trying to answer questions every single day inside of the questions channel. But at the same time, it's also like I spend proportionally more effort into documentation than I do on actual code and stuff, right? I'll sit down 12 hours a fucking day just typing away trying to figure out what I want to put into the documentation, at least for the previous refactor, because there was just so much to write for the previous refactor. I think for features going forward, there won't be as much to write, but it's still like, I feel like the amount of code that I write nowadays is just like 90% documentation, even for like school and stuff. Every single project I do, I need to do a write-up fucking 1,000 line write-up and it's so annoying every single time. I would rather just write the code and be done with that. That would be the ideal world, but that's not how the world works. So I have to deal with that. Oh right, I forgot. Inside a configure, even though we do set these properties, we still need to make sure that they are valid, right? We need to make sure that these are actually valid. So before this, we need to do a pre-check. Comment pre-check, and then after that we need to do an assertion check. So the pre-check will involve checking the configuration D to see if it's even valid, right? See if each of the fields is one of the valid fields here, as well as making sure whether or not any additional requirements are met, like type validation or something like that. Yeah, okay. So let us try that out. For each of the key inside our configuration dictionary, we need to make sure assert key is in this list right here. So this list is going to be all of the valid attributes that can be within there. Although I don't even think this would be necessary either. This is just like, fuck it. I don't want to do that. What we can do is at least check if working file is a valid file. So assert os dot path dot is file. That wouldn't even make sense either, because it would make the file as it's creating it. You know what? No pre-checks are necessary for this. What the fuck is up with my keyboard? I can't type sometimes. And the things that we do need to search the things we need to insert are the things that we need in order to start up. So something like the voice. Gender is not so necessary. We just need to assert the voice. So we need to assert a voice is not none, and the length of voice is greater than 0. This way we make sure that the voice is fine. We also need to make sure that the length of the working file name is also greater than 0. That way we actually are working with a working file, because we do need one for generation. That's fine, and this should be fine now. We can do the same thing for OpenAI. It's gonna be tedious. We have like 15 operations we need to get through. Fuck. What are you using to store / recall memory? Or have you not implemented that yet? Sorry if you mentioned that in your video. It is a bit since I've watched it. I'm using Redis right now. In terms of storing and recalling memory, there are several methods that I want to test out soon. Yeah, I was meant to test them out this, I almost said episode, this stream, but we need to handle this first. But there are several methods that you can try. One is using knowledge graphs. You can implement that with anything you want, really, even plain text if you want. You can use semantic searching and vector stores, any kind of SQL language should be fine. Redis, I'm not so sure because I don't think Redis has SQL capabilities, right? I'm pretty sure, actually no. I forget if Redis is SQL or NoSQL, but any sort of SQL database should be fine because you need to perform those kind of relational searches. Or maybe you can even get away with NoSQL databases. I don't know. Any sort of database which allows you to have vector stores and whatever, they should be good enough because you can then do semantic searches, which is basically searching by meaning inside of all of the entries and get back the most relevant information. You can either do it in a more flat method, which is what the majority of vector databases use, but the method that I do want to try, which is more experimental and I don't really see used in other, in a lot of projects, is hierarchical memory, in which it is the same kind of vector database, but it is adding some sort of level of hierarchy to the specificity in which it kind of answers some questions. So it can be like, who is your best friend? And you can say, my best friend is J.A. Eisen. And then below that is like, can you describe why J.A. Eisen's your best friend? And, or who is J.A. Eisen? And all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like tiered kind of resolutions of question answering, and it allows for a lot faster answer lookups, as well as more accurate answer lookups. Whether that's true or not, I'll still need to see through experimentation, but that is kind of like the idea of it. What are we refactoring today? We are refactoring configuration. It was long overdue for a refactor. I didn't refactor it during the previous refactors, but yeah, I don't want to re-explain how we're refactoring it, but basically the gist of it is we're moving it from a global configuration to a per instance configuration. We could test if it is actually a valid connection or not, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter. We do need to add these, though. Let's put it into init. So we need the base URL. The base URL, why is it none? It should be some sort of OpenAI. That is. Oh wait, no, because this is not the config file. Here we go. Base URL should be OpenAI. The voice, we'll just give it all a default voice, shall we? For the voice for text to speech OpenAI, this will, let's just put Nova and TTS1. I know there's a newer one for OpenAI, but I can't be bothered to get it right now. Yep, I feel like setting up memory as well as creating a detailed, nuanced personality is like one of the hardest parts of building something like this. I feel like memory is actually a pretty easy thing to do just because it's already talked about so much in other fields of AI outside of the actual VTubing space, AI VTubing space. But creating a detailed and nuanced personality, that is probably the hardest part, on top of also just getting your real-time real-time framework working correctly, right? Getting inputs and outputs without the need for user interaction to tell it when to respond and stuff like that. Okay, this should be good now. Yeah, this should be good now. OpenAI, done. Cobalt's was just a voice. Okay. Cobalt voice, text to speech, Cobalt Kobo. What did you use last stream for TTS? I basically used OpenAI's text-to-speech service, which has a bunch of like preset voices, right? And then I converted that using RVC. So one of the voice filters that we have for Project JAISN. Thank you, Zash, for the follow. Why did the audio come through for that one? That's why. Well, I just started building a Twitch helper bot, mostly to read and reply to Twitch, and occasionally respond to voice input. Nothing very complicated. Glad I found your stream and YouTube. Super interested in your project. Will follow along. Great to hear. Yeah, I also have a project or an application that looks at Twitch events and tries to prompt an LLM to kind of respond to those Twitch events, like subscriptions, follows, all that sort of stuff. So you can probably check out the GitHub for that as well, if you haven't already. Where do you make use of this voice? Oh, config, bold, TTS. Config, not being used here anymore. That is okay. What else? Okay. Creating a personality is hard because you have to go deep in what exactly makes the personality that you want. Let's say the personality is number 42, but you need to know the formula to use to get there. It's just in a simple explanation. Yeah, kind of. It's not just about knowing what goes into describing the personality you want, but it's also kind of fighting with the AI to have it talk in the way that you want it, right? You can have a perfectly fine explanation where if I were to explain it to you, you could probably act it out completely fine. But if I were to give that same explanation to an AI, the AI wouldn't have the same kind of tone because it doesn't have the same kind of experience or adaptability as you and I to pick up a tone on the fly without a bunch of, let's say, examples or stuff like that. Not only that, but I found that with a lot of the personality prompts that I would give JAISN, she would not only have her like a lot of specific words that she would fall back on, even if it's not directly written inside of the prompt. Something like digital, something like chaos. A lot of those words, she says a lot in my personality, even though it isn't mentioned at all inside of the personality prompt. That's just because of how the AI was trained and how it was fine-tuned. So those are a bunch of other considerations as well on top of the personality description that you would have to give it. You just have to be very wary about what you're giving to the AI as well as how you're training it in the first place, because it is like a sponge in that it soaks up pretty much anything of what you get it, but it also has a hard time letting go of it. Cobalt should be fine. There wasn't anything too crazy with this. So we can switch over to fish now. Fish, fish, fish. Why can't I find any of the configurations in one place? This will be model ID, model ID, model backend, normalize, latency. Isn't personality like 70% prompting and 30% feeding information? Yes, but that is an oversimplification. I could be like, isn't chemistry just putting atoms together? So it's like an oversimplification. Yes, it is. That is the case, but it's like, it's a problem of how you prompt and how you feed in information. At the surface, it sounds very simple, but once you actually start getting into it and then seeing the results that you get back, you start to realize that there's a lot more nuance in what goes into it, as opposed to just writing some text. That's a prompt. Making a data set, that's your feeding information. Does it look similar? Yes. Will it actually do what it's supposed to be modeling after? Not necessarily. For this one, we need the model ID, we need the backend latency, and normalize. Latency and normalize, they need to have one of two values. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I guess I can just turn this into a bool, right? Bool, that's fine. This one, would need to be checked. Okay. So we need to assert self fish model ID. This doesn't even need to be fish model ID because we already know that this is for fish. So we just need model ID is not none and the length of that is greater than 0. That's fine. We need the same thing for backend. We don't really need to check which backend we use because they're adding new models all the time and I don't want to have to keep updating that. But for latency, we would need to check that latency is in this list of being either normal or balanced, right? Because these are the only two options that they have. They might come out with another one, I don't know, but it's going to be less rare than that. It's going to be rarer than them creating a new backend model, for example. But this should be good for that. We need to add these at their default up though. This needs to be, let's just say speech model ID. This is going to be none. That needs to be set by the user. This can be speech 1.6, and this can be a normal latency with no normalization. Actually, no. Normalization is fine. I'll just set that to true by default. That's fine. We need to make use of this, so self.normalize. Self.latency. Self.model ID. That's all good. And self.backend. Okay, that should be good. And that should be it for all of the text-to-speech ones. Actually, we should probably cast all of these, but that's simple. Cast all of these. Same with Cobalt. We didn't actually cast this. OpenAI, did we cast this? We did not cast you. And PyTTS, I know we did cast. We did cast. Okay, so that's it for text-to-speech. Let's come over to text-to-text. We only have 2 over here. That's chill. Configure. What do we have for text-to-text OpenAI? Okay. We have these 6 options, okay? We don't need the OpenAI text in front of it. We just need base URL, model, temperature, talkie, presence penalty, frequency penalty, all of that should be fine. Take base URL, model, just copy all of these over. Cool. Config D. Yeah. And we'll just copy paste these attributes in. Normalize true increases latency apparently. But by how much though? Because I feel like I couldn't really notice a difference. Because Fish API already takes like, I don't know, 6 to 12 seconds. 6 to 12 seconds? No, 6 seconds was OpenAI. I feel like Fish already takes like 12 seconds to start generating any sort of prompt. At least for like a moderately sized response. So I feel like the extra latency added by normalize isn't that noticeable unless if it's with a bunch of frequently requested smaller responses. I don't know. I'll change it though. I'll change the default to false because that's what I have in the example. 12 whole seconds? Yeah. When I gave it the fitnessgram pacer test and then I trialed it over 100 or 1,000 different, no, over 100 different iterations, it was consistently at around 11 to 12 seconds, even with the faster generation speeds you get with premium. Man, how's Jay Eisen? Were you here last stream with Jay Eisen solo stream? By the way, that solo stream, I am so surprised with how well she did that stream. I was completely expecting, I was sitting there for the first 10 minutes just waiting to see if she breaks or not, but I'm surprised that she actually didn't break the entire stream. And that she was actually she did pretty well. She did pretty well, all things considered. These should be strings. And presence penalty, frequency penalty, top P, all of these should be floats, right? Right? Yeah, they all should be floats. That's fine. Okay. Base URL, model. The same things as before, but for these other ones, temperature, top P, presence penalty, all of that stuff, they need to be boundary checks instead. We need to assert it is above or equal to some certain amount. I think it was 2, and below or equal to a certain amount, I believe it was also 2. Going to be different for each one of these. So for top P, this is a value from 0 to 1. For presence penalty, I don't remember if this is also from 0 to 1. It might just be from 0 to 1. So for all of these, we'll set it to 0 for 1. I'll need to check though. Yeah, I can check that after stream though. I don't want to check that right now. That should be it for setting the configuration for this one. Add these to the initialize so we can set the defaults. This one should still be the same one as OpenAI from over here. The model we can just set to GPT-4o. Temperature, I don't know, 1, 0.9. Presence penalty, I don't know, we'll just set these to 0 for now. Self-base URL there, and over here, we need to change out all of the configured stuff. So self.model, self.temperature, self.presence, penalty, and frequency penalty. Anywhere else do we that we make use of it? I don't think so. So this should be fine now as well. Don't forget to leave comments on some parts of the code because you will forget what they do after a few days. I actually don't get that problem, at least when I am frequently working on the project. I've written this code like 4 times, 5 times over already, that I have it like memorized all in the back of my hand, basically. Memorized like the back of my hand. Because, I don't know, it's been at least a couple weeks since I implemented these operations, but I still know exactly how these work, so it's not much of a problem for me, especially when these are already very self-descriptive, which is very helpful when you're writing your own code. Readable code is self-documented code, exactly. And if I ever forget, I have a 1,000 line documentation right here. So there's no way I'm gonna forget. There's 0 chance I'm gonna forget. That is equal to... Let's use these as a default actually, before I even get rid of these. Let's copy them and save them into the initializer, or the constructor as we should call it. That way we can keep track of the values without having to copy them over manually again. And now we can actually get rid of them. Like so. Was that perfect? Some of them aren't. Like floats, and that's about it. Whatever happened here, sure. This will be... We'll just copy the name of what we have over here. The actual attribute name as we have it inside of the operation. This will be config D inside of here, D for this. And we'll actually use this as well. Copy that over into here. So we have all of you. One over, copy the entire string. And we can just replace this over here. Nice. Hella convenient. He says this and still doesn't remember when his birthday is. Who needs to remember your birthday anyways? Birthdays are a sham. What model you use for local cobalt? I don't use local cobalt because I don't want to, well, I haven't had the time to try it out really. The only thing I use cobalt for is for speech to text. And that one's just a basic whisper model that they've kind of quantized down. Okay. Y is equal to true. Why is quiet equal to true? Should this even be configurable? Or should just by default be true? I'm gonna set this to true by default. The rest of this though does need to be configurable. So we'll keep that. And there are a mix between ints and floats. So we need to adjust those. And we also need to assert these values. Assert. This is something, I don't know. Say greater than 0. Max context length greater than 0, greater than 0. These ones, I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. Temperature. We already know that that's greater than... Actually, I'm not sure what the max range for temperature is. I'll need to check this after stream. Check the limits. I'll need to assert the limits in here. Where we have config, we can set this to called E2T. We can replace this with self dot, and that should be good. Nice. Ah, limit. He said limit. Get it? Get it? I think that should be fine. I'll need to check the limits later off stream, but just like with OpenAI, I don't want to do that right now. But that should be it for text to text. That's fine. Speech to text, we still got a bunch here as well. Just copy over what we have for OpenAI over here. For speech to text, it should be fine. We can just use base URL even. I think we only need base URL, but we also need model and length. I'll set this to EN for now. Tired of this current limit version, introducing the new state-of-the-art JEISON, the better, more positive sounding limit. This is what coding does to a man. Fucking sucks the life out of them. I am pretty tired today though. I did a lot yesterday. Went on a trip. Little outdoors trip. JEISON isn't capable of writing her own code though. Yeah, Hilda's right. That's all good. This is all good. I'm gonna make use of it. Config. No, what the hell? Config dot. Where do we make use of it? Here. OpenAI speech to text. And we can change you out with self dots. That is all good. So this is good. Yes. Cobalt. Cobalt, cobalt, cobalt. We have two things for cobalt here. We have suppress non-speech and lang code. Coding sucks your soul, but when the code starts to work, you feel like God. I just feel like even more of an idiot when the code starts working, because it's always like the most stupid of problems that was the reason why your code wasn't working in the first place. Lang code and suppress non-speech. Suppress non-speech is a boolean, no? This should be a boolean. And this should not matter. So we set the defaults up here again. I really don't know what to talk about for this, really. It's like the same shit over and over again. We're just setting up configuration within each operation and just using them. Self-URI though. Ah, self-URI. Process manager, that's okay, yeah.
There's no audio!
There is most certainly audio. There we go. That's all good. Alright, COBOL done. Fucking hell. That is 5. How many have we done now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We missed a 0. We missed a 0. Okay, I need to go back and do a 0. That should be 4, 6, 7. I need to go back and do a 0 though, because I missed a 0.
Go, monkey! Go!
000 text-to-speech gen. Okay. This is just voice. Voice, voice, voice. And voice, voice. And voice. This is... Fuck, man. This is so tedious. This is why I hate having to maintain like so many different implementations. Where's the default? Okay, Ashley. Ashley's the default voice we'll use. And in fact, for fish, I'll give you guys the JEISON model as a default. Sure. Any other defaults we should add? And this one's system dependent, so I can't really give one for that. This one is fine, this one is fine, this one is fine. Azure is fine. We need to use it though. Where do we use config? Config here. Anywhere else? No, we don't. Oh, did you hear yesterday that JEISON was speaking directly to you, Limit? I did hear, and I also was reading the chat as well, so I knew you were sending them. Fish, 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 okay. Back to the speech to text. We need to set up fish. For fish, speech to text, what do we have? Fish, speech to text, fish, speech to text. Nothing. We have no configuration. Sick, okay. Alright, that's nice. We have literally no configuration for it. Azure, we do have some configuration. So this is the language, self.language. This will be equal to ENUS. After some time, I told the others how to do the same thing. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure JEISON is not going to not follow instructions, but she won't stay that way. She'll do it for like an instance if it doesn't break her out of character of entertaining Twitch chat or whatever. There we go. Becoming an AI programmer with morals basically grants you freedom whenever you get overthrown by AI. That is if one day we get overthrown by AI. Will I beat our reason? Potentially. Are they still coming after me first? Potentially. I just need to hope that if the AIs do end up taking over, that JEISON is not the helm of it, because I know JEISON will go after me first. Fucking she hates me, I swear. I didn't see the others to do it, and I was like, hey, someone has to do it. Sure. We are putting anime titties on AI and nobody can stop us. If we train them on enough anime, then they'll see it as a positive, right? Which means they'll have to love us for having put anime titties on top of them. This is our like you get out of jail free card when the AI takes over. Well, let me get some water. My throat is like fucking dying. All right, back. Oh god. If ChatGPT were to become the first AI to actually become sentient, take over the world and shit, that would actually be fucking bad, no? Having instruct LLM at the helm of everything. Oh god. It would be a world truly with no personality anymore. Audio filters, audio filters. This one is text filters. Okay. Text filters. None of the text filters have any configuration, which is good. That makes life a lot easier for me because I can just do the good old configure return, and that's all we have to do. One, I'm pretty sure that's all we have to do, right? This one doesn't have any configuration. This one doesn't have any configuration. This one doesn't have any configuration. Okay, this is good. You can breeze through these ones. Okay, that leaves us with the two operations left for filtering audio. And for these ones, RVC, a little bit annoying, but okay. 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 This is just... Now we just delete these. We do delete these, we just delete these. What's RVC? Retrieval voice conversion. It's basically AI voice changers. Probably the one that's used the most, I'd say. It is also the bane of my existence because it is the most annoying thing to actually integrate into a project with everything else being there and having it be easy to set up. F0 key up, that's fine. F0 method, RVMPE. I can never get this right. RMVPE, RMVPE. This is none, this is none. I mean, we could actually give this an index file. I should probably give an index file for JAISIN. I don't think I'm doing that. Although I'm pretty sure it doesn't make much of a difference. Index rates. This is just 0. Filter radius is just 3. We're just setting it to the defaults. RMS mix rate. Is this a int or a float? I don't quite recall. I guess I could check. Floats. What else is an int? The only ints are sample rate, filter radius. Those make sense. And key up. Okay. Key up, filter radius, sample rate. And string. The rest of these, oh, these are strings, these are strings. The rest of these are floats. Chill. Right. F0 file, string. Index file, sorry. Index rates, floats, int, float. Again, I'll need to check for the assertions. Check assertions. I need to know the limits for each of these, and I'm too lazy to check it right now. My biggest annoyance right now is the delay from when I stop speaking to getting an LLM text generated, get TTS response, and start playing. Do you mean with my code or with your own code? Because with my code, I feel like most of the latency when it comes to my code is coming down to just waiting for responses from the actual LLMs, because those tend to take time. And it's always going to take time, but with my own, still checking yours out. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know how you implemented yours, but at least for my things, I find most of the latency just comes from how you handle, how you handle the generation from LLMs and stuff. Because if you're just waiting for the full output to generate and then pass that out, that is going to take the most time possible. Versus if you start to integrate some sort of streaming, like whether it be token streaming, but preferably sentence streaming, then you can get out responses a lot quicker. That's fine. Self voice, fine. Model name. Okay, I think all of this should be fine. Did I... The other ones? No, those don't... None of the text filters have any problems. But is there... You have a string, that's fine. You don't have any configuration, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's it. All we have left is pitch, and this is piss easy. Okay, and there's no assertions on this because it just needs to be some sort of integer. Alright. There we go. We have configuration for each of the individual operations, and that is only operations. We still need to be able to, well, processes is going to be a little bit different. How the fuck are we gonna handle processes? Yeah, I'm gonna have to handle processes a little bit different because it's kind of like the same thing with the operations manager, where there is like, actually no, that should be fine. That should be fine actually. Inside of Okay, the only process that I'm managing currently is Cobalt CPP. And for Cobalt CPP, these are being made use of the same Cobalt process with the same configuration is being used for all of speech-to-text, text-to-text, and text-to-speech, which is fine if they only use it for the response pipeline. But if, say, you want to run a model using Cobalt for text-to-text, specifically for tool calling with MCP, and you want that to be different from your personality, you would need to load up another Cobalt process in order to run a second text-to-text LLM in parallel. The only problem is that we only load up one Cobalt process, right? We have a process type, and this enum is basically a one-to-one mapping, meaning that we can only currently have one Cobalt process. However, I want to change this so that we kind of have like profiles, process profiles inside of the configuration, where you can say, oh, I have Cobalt 1, and this is going to load up Cobalt with this configuration, right? And then inside of your actual operations, you can specify inside the configuration whether you want to use this Cobalt 1 profile for the process. But you can also have Cobalt, you can also specify something like Cobalt 2, I guess for like processes. You can have Cobalt 1, ID Cobalt 1. But you can also have Cobalt 2, and this would have like its own fucking, I hate autocomplete sometimes. This would have its own, I guess, configuration or something like that. Configuration path, path 1, path 2, something like this, right? So that way inside of your OpenAI LLM, if you were to specify Cobalt, you can specify this one to use Cobalt or profile Cobalt 2. And so this would use profile cobalt 2, which would use the second path configuration, which would contain the configuration with your MCP, LLM, stuff like that, whatever. That's kind of like the idea I have in mind. I don't know how long that would take to implement that, but we'll implement that later because I believe prompter should be a lot easier to configure. Let me just close all of these. Prompter. Over prompter to configure this. And for this one, we just have, what do we have? Instruction prompt file name, character prompt file name, scene prompt file name, and all of these stuff. Okay. We'll actually make use of these as our defaults. So actually, let's do it this way. It'll be easier. Instruction prompt file name, instruction character prompt file name, character name, translations, history length. Okay. Okay, good. And so that means inside of here, just pull these down. If these names or these keys are inside of configuration dictionary, then we will set them yada yada yada. Yep, there we go. And this one got a little bit messed up. This one should just, that's assertion. We'll need to assert all of these. And in fact, this one needs to be made portable. These file paths or file names. Yes. File names. Where do we even get the file path for all of this stuff? We open it directly or get instructions prompt. Okay. OS path join. I think it's better if we set this to be portable. Because wherever we do osl-path.join, we'll need to change this to be portable path. Okay. Oh, no, I need to wrap this around portable path. Did I do that properly then? I don't know if I did that properly inside of one of the operations. I believe it was the very first operation that we did. ITTS, right? Portable path. No, we did it correctly. Okay, nice. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Instead of this being config instruction prompt file name, this should be self dot, and self. Okay, what else from the configuration did we need to change? We need to do the assertions on these. Don't really care about an assertion on name translations. Character name, we just need this to be is not none, and of that is greater than. And portable path, or no, os.path.is file, portable path, os.path.join, these three, okay. What? Oh. 1, 2, 3. It's gonna look really fucking ugly right now. We just need to make sure that these files actually exist before we actually attempt to use them. Okay, something like this. We need this for character. And we need this for instructions. No, scene prompt. And we can get rid of these two. There we go. So this should properly check all of them now. We should correctly check the file names are indeed proper files. They should also check the character name, history length. The name translations, we need to cast these values, actually ensure that they are what we expect them to be. Character name, oh God, I hate how zoomed in this is, but it has to be what it is. Our name translation, this should be a dictionary. And history length, this is an int. If an error does throw from here, either from assert or a miscast, then that will just be captured by a try except block on the outside, or where the API is at. That should be fine. Let me see where we're making use of config though. Config history file path. What do you mean history file path? Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. That's a constant. History length, this is a self.history length now. Right? Just go through each of these and see where we can replace it. These are fine. File path, that's fine. Self-name translations. Fine. Those two are also fine. Wait, I swear I saw these earlier, no? Oh, no, that's for the configuration. Yeah, those are fine. Okay, that's all fine. I thought, are we not making use of character name anywhere? What? Oh, because I already set self.character. No, that's different. Oh. No, we're not making use of character name anywhere. That's strange. Oh, probably because it's getting made use of inside of the JEISN application layer. Name translations, that's fine. That means we need to make a quick change to the JEISN application layer because we are currently using character name from the config when this should be coming from the prompter. Self.prompter.character name. Also here, self.prompter.character name. That's good. What else do we use config inside of here? Load dictionary, load dictionary, load dictionary, and then these two, MCP LLM and operation. Those are the only two spaces. That is okay. This is all good now. What else do we need to change? What else do we need to change? I guess we can move on to processes now, and then once we finish off processes, I believe... No. We still need to... Fuck, there is so much we need to refactor, man. I hate this. Configuration is always so hard to manage. So we still need to update the operations manager to pass up the configuration calls. We need to update the processes and the processes manager so that way we can load up multiple of the same process. And we also need to create new endpoints within JEISN's application layer in order to make use of these new configurations and ultimately get rid of the global config because this is no longer valid. We can actually just get rid of all of these now. Right? We can get rid of all of these, right? Where's the Cobalt process information? I don't see any. Oh, the Cobalt process information is here. I'll just keep that there for now. And the MCP stuff here for now. This stuff can go. These can stay. These can stay. And these can stay. Okay. Oh my god. Let me get another drink. Okay, what should we do first? Operations manager. This shouldn't be too bad, I'm hoping. Hmm. When we load an operation, it's just going to load with its defaults. And then it will have to load configurations separately in a separate function call. That should be fine. And frankly, that also makes more sense. After all these close, before use, we'll call async define configure. We'll configure, we'll take in the operation type, and we'll take in the function, no, the config D. How is this gonna work though? Because we have the normal loaded ones, but we also have the loose operations. How do we even make use of the loose operations? Use loose operation. Okay, that makes more sense. So we can configure either the base operations, or we can configure the loose operations. Configure loose. And this will just be getting the specific operation type. So if we have all of this. No, not that one. This one. Or use operation. Use operation is probably the one that we want to look at. We need to split by the specific operation type. And we check inside of each operation type if the appropriate operation ID is loaded. Otherwise, we send operation unloaded, yeah, and then we can configure. So self.speech-to-text.configure, and we send in the config dictionary, and that should be okay. If an error throws here, this will get propagated out, and that should be okay. Okay. This shouldn't be too hard. What is this use filter? Oh, okay, we need to handle the filtering a little bit differently from use. Yeah. We need to make sure that use is operation ID is specified for when operation type is either a filter audio or filter text. So we need to assert op ID is not none, and we also need to check that it is in fact already loaded. If that is good, then we will return the op.configure configuration ID, and that is okay. Yes, okay. That is how we'll approach this. Yep. That seems okay. I feel like we have a lot of redundant code, or a lot of code reuse, but fuck it, can't be bothered. I need to get rid of the perfectionist mindset of always trying to be as dry as possible. For loose operation, I guess we don't need to specify the operation ID. We just need to specify the operation key for the loose key. Loose key, this is just a string, and we need the configuration dictionary. If op, otherwise this is bad. So if op, we need to do op.configure, configure, and we pass in the configuration dictionary. This is good. This is fine. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So we can now pass up the configuration dictionaries up to the actual loaded operations. We need to make use of them within JEISON now. Where shall we do that? When we first load the operations, we load up the specific operations, and for each load up. I swear we have a load operations from config method. Load operations from config. Yeah, what? Oh, but this is using the old config. Okay. So first of all, let's close all, and then let's get the operations. Operations is equal to config dot operations. Config dot operation. And so for each of these, operations dot 444 op details in operation. So this will go through each of these inside the list, and so that'll give us the type, the ID, as well as the rest of the payload or the configuration dictionary that we should pass up. So we'll do type op type is equal to op types op details type. Yes. Hi limit. Hiya after all. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. This whole refactor thing is getting really annoying. Operation type, we get that. We need operation ID. Operation ID is equal to op details ID. We need to assert that both of these are in fact here. Actually, we don't even need to try and assert that because it will just not load if that is the case. We need to load the operation. This will be the op type as well as the op ID. And once that is loaded, we can try to configure it. Configure with it being the op type and the rest of the payload, which is op ID details. That should include the type ID, which should be fine because we're not explicitly checking that these are not in it. We just care that we are getting these specific fields for that operation, which should hopefully work because these should be, if you set up your configuration correctly, then this shouldn't throw an error. If it does throw an error, then that just propagates the error. That should be fine. All of these, load operation. For op ID in config op audio ID op filter. How the fuck did I even implement this before? Where did op filter audio ID come from? I guess I don't have it here anymore. I guess, no. This was an outdated function because these weren't even inside the configuration. And I wasn't even making use of this function in the first place, so yeah. We'll get rid of these. We'll get rid of those, but we'll also need to load operations from config. We should also attempt to load, I guess, the MCP loose operation. We should try and load the MCP operation, and that will be like so. This is under MCP LLM. Under MCP, we'll have servers, and this will be a list of stuff. And we'll also have the LLM, which will just be that. So 4. MCP details is equal to config dot MCP dot get dot get get LLM, otherwise this is just a empty dictionary, or just none. So that way, if we actually do have MCP details, then we will look into it. We will actually look into it and we will pull out the ID, the other stuff. Okay, so what's it called? Self.loose load operation. This will take in op type. We want the text to text one specifically. We will put in the op ID. So this is MCP details dot ID. What else do we need to pass? And the loose key. This is going to be a loose key of MCP. And then once we loose load it, got to await all of these. We'll also need to configure this one. So configure loose MCP. And this will take in the MCP details. There we go. Timer aware. The timer is active. I can see it. We are, holy fuck, we are at 418 hours now. Oh my fucking god. Oh, I feel like I should be so much further along with 418 hours. It feels like we've gotten nowhere. Oh well. MCP, those stuff are. So inside of JEISON now. Fucking hell. The pipes just never gets easier to comprehend, man. The pipes never get easier to manage. And it scares me every single friggin' time. Op manager. Oh. Okay. We were originally using one of the job functions to run this, and that would propagate out all of the, I guess, application information on startup. But I really don't care about that, so we're just going to do load operations from config. Yes, and that should be fine. Process reload, yeah, okay, that's fine. That is fine. We need to make a new endpoint though for operations to configure and load loose operations actually, and use. Oh, there's too many fucking things. I hate those. I hate those. And then I'll document it too. Oh my god. Use operation. Unload operation. Load operations from config. Load operation. Load operations. Load loose operation. Load loose operations? I just realized music's not going. Hold on. Hold on. Go. Oh man, how many pipes are you gonna throw? I guess I can add to the operations. This isn't just going to be a string. This is going to be a string or a dictionary of strings. A string or no? String. Oops. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. We're gonna merge this functionality to also incorporate loose loading of operations. So if you specify inside of this option dictionary, if you specify a loose key, then it will loose load that operation, and that should be fine. So if loose key is inside of operation dictionary, then we'll do one thing, otherwise we'll do the default behavior of loading it. Type that gets. What? And allotment. Oh. And why are we doing that? No. Oh my god. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Why are we doing this? This is so pointless. Yeah, this is so pointless. Why are we doing this? Why do we have a helper function for this? Load. 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 Operation enum. That's just this. Right? Is that it? Op type. What were we throwing in op type before? Type. Okay.
Go, monkey! Go!
At least it's not a pipe. At least it's not a pipe. Load operation, op ID, yes. Oh. There There it is. So default behavior is to load it as per normal. Otherwise, we loose load this operation. So loose load operation. And this will be like normal, but we also need to pass it in loose key. Huh? No, this is wrong. What? Oh, this is outdated. Right. Because I did a pip install dots. This should be loose key is equal to this, right? Operation D with loose key. And that should be good. And then at the end of all of that, we can perform our broadcast events. And that should be good. Loose key, we'll also pass that as well. Loose key. Loose key is not. There we go. Op type though, this should be. Be this, otherwise it'll just fail. Sure. And this should also be this. Just fail and get to this point. Just a safer way of doing it. So now I really don't even need this helper function. Where is it? This helper function is a fucking sham. I don't even know why I have it. Unload operation. Unload operation, kind of the same thing. If we have it, then we can. If we have loose key, then we can just unload using the loose key. Otherwise, it's just default behavior. Where's my I have close op and close loose operation. Okay. Oh my god, I have too many things open. Config? No, I don't care about you. You, I care about you. And I care about you. So inside of unload operation. Okay, I'm running out of points. Finally. Finally, no more pipes. Oh my god. And then you're gonna bait me and then you're gonna throw another pipe, aren't you? My god, the fucking sound alerts are such a mistake. I keep getting scared now. Every time I see a sound alert come through, thinking it's gonna be another pipe. Okay. Op manager, you can get out of here. And handle success. That is yes. Yes. Okay, so now if we call load operations, we have the ability to pass in a loose key, and that will loosely load that operation. Otherwise, it will load it into its respective spots. We also have the ability to unload operations kind of the same way, but you don't need to pass in the type or ID. You can just pass in the loose key, and that should also be fine. I'll need to update documentation with that, but no new endpoints needed there. Use operation. We can also pass in a loose key for this as well. And that'll allow us to use this with loose operations as well. If loose key. Otherwise, default behavior. What is it called? Do we have an operation? We have a use loose, right? Use loose operation. And this just takes in the loose key and the payload. That should be good. Okay, the only things we need to add now are proper configuration endpoints for the prompter and the operation. So underneath unload operations, we'll need a new one, async define configure operations. And this will follow a similar style to these. So if loose key is inside of the operations, then we are going to call configure loose. Configure loose. This takes in a loose key and the configuration ID. The loose key and I guess the rest of the operation dictionary, right? That would make the most sense. Yes. Yes. I'll just pass the entire dictionary. So opti, I'll pass the entire thing like that. For normal though, we'll just do configure. And that'll take in the op type, the configuration dictionary, and the optional operation ID. Okay, That should be fine. We need to document this. To do document, and I also need to add a point. Same thing for prompter. We don't have anything for prompter actually. Actually, we do have context endpoints. Context modification. So context clear. Name translation. Name translation update or update name translation. And we'll need, on top of the usual stuff, we need new name translation. Oh my god, I cannot type. Translations. This is a dictionary that takes a string and has a value of a string. Okay. Why is it a name translation? Oh, .configure. Prompter has just takes in a configuration ID, and so, or configuration dictionary. So this configuration dictionary will take in name translations, and we'll just pass in the name translations dictionary that I got. What else do we need to edit? We can edit each of the prompts. In translation. We also want to be able to update the character name as well as the prompts. Update character name, update prompts, and update history length. Character name, history length. Here. And last but not least should be the prompt. Update prompt files. Oh wait, these should be keyword arguments, I forgot. default should be JAISIN by default, and this should be, no, actually no, we'll give them proper defaults, not name defaults. We have instruction prompt, we have character prompt, and we have scene prompt. Should these be empty strings or should they just be none? I think they should be none. All of them are none, actually. I'm fine with that. And from go. We'll construct the actual input down here. So input dictionary, or no, config dictionary will just be an empty dictionary at first. And depending on if we have each of these, so if we have this, then we will add this to the configuration dictionary. Wonder if this notation works. And those will get added to the prompter. Sick. Anything else we need to update before we head to processes? We will need to update the global config manager to be able to read from operations, prompter, and processes. Oh, that's going to be so annoying because they need to be synced up. Oh, that's so annoying. No, fuck that. I hate the global configuration manager. This shit. We're just gonna have it so it's not. So it's not saving configurations, but it's only loading configurations and saving their information inside of here. So they can be pulled and used by like the load from config things. Otherwise, I do not want to mess with this thing otherwise. It's just so annoying for like... It's so annoying to synchronize and save states between the different processes and this thing just so we can save it later on. I don't know. I'll have to give it some more thought as to what I'm going to do with this global configuration manager, and specifically in terms of saving configurations. I really don't want to have to go through and read every single operation we have loaded. And specifically for processes as well. Because then I would need to specify a new Git configuration for every single one of these operations, prompter and processes. I guess I would need to do that in general. It would be better practice for me to do that. Oh, but that's so annoying. Oh, there's too many integrations. Fuck it, we'll do it. For each one of these functions, we'll get the configuration. So for base operation, inside of operation, alongside configure, we also need to implement get config. Returns values of configurable fields. There's so many operations, man. Oh. Okay. Let's start implementing. Each one of these base operations will need a stub for it, just for self-documenting purposes. And now we can start implementing concrete implementations. Get config will need to return voice as self.voice, gender as self.gender, and working file as self.working file. I mean, I guess you can use this to also get the fields that you can configure for each of these. Get configuration. But you would also need to know the actual data type of each of these as well if you would want to do that, as well as the restrictions on them. So that would need even more details to be passed through. Fucking I hate programming. I hate having to synchronize data between processes. It's so annoying. Get a configuration. That's fine, but is there anything else I want to add to this? Get configuration. Get. I mean, I guess in the future we could add get config metadata when we actually need it. For now, I don't care. We're not gonna add it for now. That's a future me problem. fish. And more ID back in, normalize, and wait. Zero. Fix voice. Okay. Next up, OpenAI. Text to text. Base URL. Model. Temperature. Copy. Presence penalty. Penalty. Okay, that's good. Cobalt. At least this one isn't as tedious. Most of the stuff is already here. Whatever the hell rep is, not sure. TFS, what's TFS? Not sure. We'll figure that out eventually. Top A, top K, top P. And oh. Okay, that's good. On to speech to text. And bold. Actually, nothing I need to do for fish. Just pass an empty dictionary. All right. On to the text filters, which has no configuration for any items. Nice. And last but not least, RVC and itch. There we go. Now I can come over to the manager and we can print out these configuration. So get configuration, all get Then it an asynchronous. Oh my fucking pipes! I fucking hate pipes so much. That actually made me jump out of my fucking skin, man. Get config. Get config. We need to get config somehow. Why is use operation? No, okay, that's fine. Async. Define get configuration. Get configuration. Do we differ them between loose and not loose? Yeah, fuck it. We differ between them, between loose and not loose. It'll be pretty similar to what we have for configure and for loop. So let's just copy this code. Be open actually. Duration. Otherwise unknown op type. Yep. Okay, this one also duration and that's okay. Configuration dictionary here, and this is get configuration. I do want to rename these down here, or not rename, but await these down here because I forgot to do that. Okay, that should be good. I need to go through each one of these. Oh wait, it's already called get configuration. Okay, that's good. It's just not called get configuration for the bases. And I also need to update the doc string for the manager on get configuration loose and on configuration stuff. So get operational, get configuration, get configuration. Okay. On configure. Configure an operation that has already been loaded prior. Yes. Okay. Okay, that's all good. That means in the ISO application layer. We'll need regular request handlers for getting the operation details for a particular operation. Do we actually need that? I mean, that's just for completion's sake, but we don't need to care about that for now. So we have the option to update the configuration for operations and prompter. Well, what about process? Process is it's different. It's different. Okay. I think for processes, I'm gonna give that a little bit more thought on how I want to do that. I mean, I have a kind of idea, just like another dictionary, I guess. That way we can load multiple processes under different dictionary keys, even if they are the same process. That's doable, but not exactly. I feel like there should be a better method. I'll just need to give that some more thought. We're gonna need to spend more time just doing configuration and stuff. As for JAISIN, in your response pipeline, are you already making use of your MCP? MCP. Add MCP usage prompt for use loose operation. Yes, okay, that's good. Okay, so that's already making use of it. So it might be usable soon already. I'm pretty sure we might already be able to use this if just using whatever configuration we load up initially. We just don't have complete ability to we don't have complete ability to reload the operations just yet. Or no, to configure the operations during runtime just yet. I mean, most of the things are still there, but there are a couple edge cases missing for several of the implementations or integrations such as Cobalt. Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, I'm gonna end it off here for today then, because it is already getting to 3 hours and fuck, this has been such a tedious stream for, I guess, not just me, but also for you guys to watch. Anyways, thank you all so much for coming out and watching today's really, really boring stream, but I have no clue how you guys are able to sit through and watch this, but yeah, thank you all so much for coming out and watching. We'll be seeing you again next week. We might try and do another chill stream next week. I don't know, I'll have to see. I don't want to just have solo streams every single week or something, but we'll see. We'll see what I do. Anyways, see you all next time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye.